In this section, we'll be going over the HOPWA specific data fields that are captured in HMIS. We'll start by doing a project intake. So I'm going to go ahead and start the process on a client here. And we'll select a HOPWA project. Something you'll want to do on any HOPWA enrollments is you want to make sure the person that is living with HIV/AIDS is marked as the head of household. So you might have a family that's already in the system where the head of household is not the person with AIDS that is qualifying this family for a HOPWA project. So what you'd want to do in that case is you just always want to make sure to manually change this family relationship around, relationship to head of household, so that the person with HIV/AIDS is listed as self. And so we'll go ahead and for training, we'll say this is correct for this family right here. And we'll go ahead and continue on in the workflow. For that head of household that is living with HIV/AIDS, of course, they should be marked as yes for a disabling condition. We'll go ahead and fill out this information, which you would be used to if you do enrollments for any other projects. It is very important that you record the HIV/AIDS status as yes for anyone that is HIV/AIDS, and condition is indefinite marked as yes. Both of those need to be marked to make this client HOPWA compatible. And so what I mean by that is if you do not choose these two options, you will not have the needed HOPWA assessments that will automatically populate in the workflow for you to fill out. So you won't be capturing all the information needed for a HOPWA enrollment. And we can actually see that here. So normally with other projects, you would just have domestic violence and income. Those would be the next assessments that you would do with this client. However, because we chose yes to both of these, now when I go ahead and click Save and Close to continue, you'll see there's actually some other assessments we're going to be presented with. And one of those is the assistance assessment here. So this is if they are receiving medical assistance or receiving drug assistance. And both of these are required. So you would either need yeses or nos here. Of course, you've also got the client doesn't know, client refused, and data not collected if need be. If you choose no, you will have to select the reason why. So you can see the different reasons here. And so you want to make sure that you are asking these questions when doing HOPWA intakes. We'll go ahead and continue on. This is another HOPWA specific assessment. So this is the T-cell count and viral load available. On this first question here, it's going to be a no or yes. And for viral load, it's going to be not available or available, as well as undetectable. If you choose available on this question or yes on this question, it will require you to do a number here. And so this is going to be the viral load and the T-cell count. You can either do the number by using the slider bar right here, or you can simply type in the number. And there are limits to this number. So we can see here it would not allow you to put a number higher than 1,500. And it's also going to require you to say how was the data obtained. Was it client report, medical report, or other? So you want to go ahead and select those. And again, the system will make you record this. So if I had tried to hit save without this being there, we'll see there's one row that requires attention. If we hover over there, it says how was the data obtained is required field. So we'll go ahead and continue on. Of course, like other project types in the system, you will want to record the income for the client. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now we have switched over to the child automatically. So now we're going to be assessing the child and their information. So we will key that in. We do want to record all the barriers, and it will make you record all the barriers for children. And so this is relevant especially for families where other people are living with HIV/AIDS in the family. This actually shows up on the HOPWA APR report if there are other family members with HIV/AIDS, so we want to make sure we are getting that information. And then, of course, the income for any adults in the household, it is going to capture that information as well. And this will come into play on the HOPWA APR, and we'll see that in a little bit. And actually, we'll see that on one of the next few steps that we go through on this HOPWA intake. So after we have enrolled all the family members we need to, and we've done all the assessments for those family members we enrolled, it will then take us to this screen here called Family Information. The purpose of this screen is just to get the city-state zip of where this client is living. And so you don't have to type in this other information if you don't want. You'll note there's an asterisk here on this line. I find the easiest thing to do is type in the zip code, and it's automatically going to fill in the city and state. You can do it the opposite way. If you just typed in Columbus, Georgia, for instance, it would give you any possible zip codes and allow you to select it that way as well. And again, this is for where the client is living. And the reason this question is very important is because, and actually once we click Save here, we'll get this screen. And you'll just want to, this is going to list any family members here that are connected together, and this is saying they all live at this zip code. So we can hit Apply here. But as I was saying, the reason that is important is because it's going to help drive this assessment that comes next. And so we can see on this field, on this form, one of the fields is area, and it automatically now has our county filled out here, and that's because we typed in the proper zip code on the previous form. So again, we want to make sure we are doing the correct zip code on that form. Now this is the Family Financial Evaluation Form. The purpose of this form is to bring together all of the financial assessments that were just done on the family, tie them together with the area, with the family size, and then it will give you their area median income information, which populates on the HOPWA APR. So just to give you a heads up of the way this form works right here, this will list any financial assessments this client has had, not just the ones we just created for this particular enrollment, but if there were other financial assessments, it would list them here. And also it will list any family members that are connected together here with this client. So perhaps this client was with their son and when they were first keyed into Client Track, but when we were enrolling them into this HOPWA enrollment, say we had just selected self. We had just selected the head of household, and the son is no longer with him. This would still show the child listed here, but it gives you the option of you get to choose which assessments you're trying to pull together here. And what you want is you want the assessments, the entry assessments that you just did on this enrollment through this intake process, you want to tie all those together. So in this case, it's pretty easy for us. We can see here that the child only has one assessment, and that's today's date when we're doing the entry, and then that is the parent. And so it's going to tie both those together, give us the $700. Like I said, the area should automatically be filled out here. The family size will be based on how many family members or household members, as Client Track refers to it, not necessarily how many clients you have or case members you have on this particular enrollment. So that's something to take note of, that if we had just enrolled this person by themselves and we are saying that person is alone, then we would actually go in and change this to a 1 because it's just going to default to the household members number. But this is a really great form because it ties all that together to get you your area median income. You can see here that if I hover over that, it kind of drills down into the area median income to look at the details on that. And then it also has the federal poverty level listed here as well. And then we can go ahead and click Save and Finish. And that is going to be a complete HOPWA intake. Some other places you'll see HOPWA specific assessments is if you are doing a during program enrollment or annual assessment. And so I will start one of those here just so you can see how you would capture ongoing changes with the client. So when you do a during program enrollment assessment, it's going to let us update any barriers if we need to. Recapture domestic violence. It's going to recapture these questions. Let us look at our T-cell values. So this will allow you to kind of see the changes with your client as you're working with them. And then, of course, income. And then it's also going to do that during program enrollment for the other family members as well. So you would continue on doing that and so forth. And then after it does that, then it will it'll take you back to that family information form where the zip code, city, and state will automatically be filled out. So you won't have to refill that out. And then it will take you to the financial evaluation as well, which actually, just for training, it might be good to go ahead, now that I think about it, and run through this so we can see what that financial evaluation looks like when there's multiple assessments. So here we can see the zip code's already filled out here, so we can just go ahead and continue on. And here's what I was talking about, where when you get on this financial evaluation, it's going to show any assessments they had. So we know right now we are doing a during program enrollment assessment, and so we want to tie those together, which, of course, we're doing it on the same day here, which is why it's kind of funky. Normally you would not see the same date of a during program enrollment as your entry. But just because we are doing all this on the same day, that's why that's listed there. But that would allow you to go ahead and then save an updated financial evaluation. And also when you are exiting a client from HOPWA, you're going to see some of those same assessments. And so we can go through some of these and we'll see that we will have this same medical assistance question and then also the T-cell. So that's how it's going to track the changes in the system to your clients and also when they exit. One other assessment that is HOPWA specific is actually just called a HOPWA assessment. It is not actually part of the workflow, so it would be something you need to go manually do. And there is reason that it's not part of the workflow, and that is the logic that the HOPWA APR, how the HOPWA APR works, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So a HOPWA assessment looks like this, and this is within the HOPWA APR. There are these questions that are listed out, and in the HOPWA APR, one of the logic rules that apply to this is that this assessment has to be done within the program reporting period. It can't just be done when the client first gets enrolled necessarily. So what that means is if I enrolled a client on December 31st and I went in and did a HOPWA assessment for them on December 31st, we'll say 2017, And then my HOPWA program year, which is what the year period I'm running the HOPWA APR for, doesn't start till January 1st, 2018. But the client does have a enrollment that spans within that time. So they entered before the reporting period started, but they're still enrolled. So they would still show up on the HOPWA APR. However, these particular questions are not going to populate unless they have a HOPWA assessment that's done within that reporting period. So in that case, we would need to go in, for instance, and we could do even though they were enrolled on December 31st, we would need to go do an enrollment for January 1st, 2018 if that reporting period begins in 1/1/18. So hopefully that makes sense. It can be a little confusing, and it's a very common issue where people will go run the HOPWA APR, and when they get to these questions in the HOPWA APR, they'll say, hey, why is it not showing anybody here, or why is it only showing part of our people? And again, that's because the client will need to have one of these assessments done for them within the reporting period. But it's very easy to add. It is just click on Assessments, HOPWA Assessments, and Add New. So we can see that there. Also, something else to consider with migrated data. So while we know that within the intake workflow and during program enrollment workflow and exit workflow, it is going to capture this financial evaluation information here, which is going to give us the area median income that is found on the HOPWA APR. On migrated data, it's not going to have this financial evaluation. This was not part of the old system, and so this will not be something that is already in there. So what will need to be done is you will need to go in and add the family financial evaluation for any migrated enrollments. And so to do that, the first thing you'll need to do is actually add that zip code for the family. So to manually add that, you'll click on Household Members, or actually you'll hover over Household Members, click Household History, click the action button beside the family name, and click Edit Family. And this would allow you to go ahead and add the zip code there. So once you have the zip code there, then you could go over to Assessments, Financial Evaluation, New Evaluation. You would want to make sure you set this date to match with the entry assessments, and you'll see the date there and the type, so you'll be able to easily associate those with that. And then you can go ahead and save that financial evaluation. And that is going to then populate on the HOPWA APR the area median income. One last thing to note about the creating a HOPWA assessment. And again, this is that assessment you will need to go manually do, and you'll need to make sure each of the HOPWA clients have this within the program year. Once you select the appropriate things here, if you just try to click Save, you'll get an error message. The assessment is required field. This just means you need to associate this with the entry assessment. So if I click on there and click Search, it's going to show me any assessments the client has, and you would just go ahead and associate that with the entry here. So we can see that's our entry. Want to make sure that date range is within the program year. So we don't necessarily want to go match that with the enrollment date. Again, because if the enrollment date was before the program period that we are currently in, then this assessment is not going to show up. So it would be common for this date to possibly be an older date, and then you to have a later date on this assessment. And then it would allow you to go ahead and click Save. And that concludes our section on HOPWA specific data collection.